Awesome. Let's jump into it. Got a
Yeah.
little bit of an agenda today. But yeah, I guess quick intros. I'm Zach. I am the CMO at CannaPlanners. Um, Kind of also sometimes an SEO strategist, sometimes a CFO, depends on the day. So yeah, that's me. Who are you, Anthony?
Well, Zach, I'm Anthony. I'm Anthony Green. I was made for this industry. I lead sales at Surfside. We're an ad tech company. I wear a few different hats from time to time as well. But excited to be here with you. Excited by our partnership. Love working with you and Will and the Ryans and the team. So let's get into it.
Yeah, likewise. It's been, I think at this point, it's been a couple of years that we've been interfacing. I've chatted with Tim Wallace for quite a long time, and now it's a pleasure to be getting on Google Meets with you frequently. So this is my
Nice.
first time ever doing a webinar, so bear with me as I kind of struggle through how to be on camera.
Nice.
Will's usually the podcast guy and the Instagram guy, but I'm getting out here and shaking off some of the cobwebs. So.
Nice. Love it.
We got a little agenda, so we started with some intros. I think most people that would be watching this are familiar with both CannaPlanners and Surfside, so we don't have to give a whole background, but maybe a little bit of what's new. We'll jump into the partnership between us and kind of talk a little bit about what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about e-commerce and just what's happening in the world of cannabis e-commerce this week, I guess, because it changes so frequently. Um, Talk a little bit about how brands and retailers can collaborate and what our part really is in that in terms of CannaPlanners and Surfside. Some examples, how to get started, and then we'll leave some time for questions. So that's
Cool.
our agenda.
Nice. Well, look, Surfside, I mean, yeah, most people probably have some sense of who we are. We're an advertising technology company. Don't need to get any more fancy than that necessarily. What that simply means is we've built our own advertising technology and we specialize in the cannabis industry. Cannabis brands and retailers is the vast majority, overwhelming majority of our business today. We have 3,000 plus retail doors we work with around the country, hundreds of brands now. And something we're going to talk a little bit about today, or probably a lot about today, is the concept of commerce media, which really means the ability for cannabis brands in particular to have an advertising mechanism, a way for them to drive measurable sales. That's been lacking in the cannabis industry. Retailers have had some solutions, for a decent amount of time. We are one of them, but brands have sort of been left lacking without that D2C channel. And so commerce media is obviously what we're leaning into with CannaPlanners as well. We have an integration beyond just the partnership with you folks, so we can deliver not just industry best, but really, world best technology. This stuff's available in every other industry. Surfside just built it for cannabis. And you folks have been smart enough to very quickly realize that this is something that you want to give to your customers, give them access to, or give them at least the option to collaborate brands and retailers together and to build an ecosystem, which is super smart of you folks because you're experts at what you do. We're experts at what we do, and together it's a very formidable solution.
Yeah, totally. I think that's the thing I was excited to talk about in this conversation, just because I talk to a lot of retailers on a day-to-day basis, and the question that I keep getting asked, and I think even more frequently, is what more can we do? What else can we do? Just because, being in a regulated industry, there's a lot of things that we are cut off from. So I think having some additional options is huge, and I think especially when it comes to driving retention, driving that relationship with your brands. So
Mm.
commerce media, what really is it at its core?
Well, the common vernacular, or another name for it, I suppose, outside of cannabis, is retail media. And retail media is a massively fast growing segment. Investment from brands into retail media is enormous. The best example is Amazon. Surprise, surprise, they pioneered this. They make enormous amounts of their company profit now by doing this. And most people listening to this probably use Amazon. So if you want to see what it is, go to Amazon, I mean, there's multiple versions of it, but the one I like to go to is if I go to check my orders and when they're being delivered, there's ads there now for me. There's targeted ads. It's often dog food and that kind of stuff because we have a dog, right? But other products that they know I'm likely to buy. That's at its essence what retail media is. And Another way to describe that is the brands are able to buy ad space on the e-commerce menu. That's really what it is. Now, there's other tenets to it. There's other directions it can go. And that's retail media. For us at Surfside, we call it commerce media because to us, you need a full funnel approach. So you want to, if you're a brand, you certainly want to have ads at that zero moment of truth, i.e., when the consumer is on an e-commerce menu ready to make a purchase or they're educating themselves to walk into a dispensary. Of course, that's where you want to advertise. That's the number one place you want to advertise. They're ready to make a purchase. It's the whole Google model, right? Is that zero moment of truth. So at a minimum, brands are doing that and need to be doing that at scale. But commerce media means not just the on-menu advertising. It also refers to all the other advertising that we can do for cannabis brands and retailers. And there's actually more that we can do than some folks even realize. Now, we've been at this for 6 years. We serve ads across popular websites and apps, the GQs, the Fox Newses, all these sorts of places. We've been doing that for many, many years. Some folks, that's news to them that they can even do that. We're probably serving 1 or 2% of the impressions we could serve to cannabis consumers in the US. Like we're not even scratching the surface in terms of scale. And so when we bring together all of that, web and app advertising, and we drive those consumers from reading that article into an e-commerce experience where there's another ad hosted, we're pushing them down a funnel. And for any marketers on the call, we're all familiar with the marketing funnel. That's commerce media. It's really a marketing funnel. But for the brand now, it doesn't end at saw the ad and clicked it and went off to some destination. We didn't know what happened. Now it continues for the brand. And the brand can see, okay, this person saw my ad, they clicked on it, they went to my dispensary partner's menu in Massachusetts, and what do you know? They bought my product. That's commerce
That's
media.
right. And this is where the collaboration between our companies makes a lot of sense because you talked about a holistic approach and we kind of glossed over what CannaPlanners really does, but at its core, we take your brand experience from the physical world of like brand identity, logos, product packaging, and we put it on a website. We design the website around the entire brand. And I think that has a lot of impact on that experience of taking somebody from elsewhere, another website, a Fox News, whatever, and then they land on this website and they have an experience that extends to in store, which is what we're really passionate about, CannaPlanners. Just to touch on that, like where we interface is we'll build out that website and we'll build out that custom e-commerce solution so that you're going to get the most out of your Surfside advertisements and that whole ecosystem. And the funnel, like you said. So yeah, it's exciting because there's not really too many opportunities, or hasn't been traditionally too many opportunities for retailers to really hit customers at the top of the funnel. And acquisition is tough in this industry. SEO is really the thing that people have, and so opening up a new channel is huge. So what are the ways that people can kind of capitalize on that channel in the best way? Like what makes a really great menu advertisement?
Well, I mean, you've got to have a good brand and a good product, and there's a few, core ingredients that go into this well before even you guys maybe. Well, actually, you guys get more involved in that side of things. Certainly before it gets to us, right? So we can't
None
turn
of it exists in a silo, right? Like it's got to look
exactly.
really great, and people need to feel really great about it when they actually go in store. And that, I think that, not to cut you off, but like that's a lot of the other thing that retailers are focused a lot more on nowadays, because especially as markets mature, acquisition becomes a lot harder. It's like the novelty wears off, and there's a limited amount of customers, and it becomes much more about retaining those customers, and unfortunately taking those customers from your competitors. And so, it it opens up that avenue. And I think like when people think of retention, like what brings a customer back, a lot of people think about pricing, a lot of people think about brands, and the way to really impact that is to develop a relationship with the brands that you're selling in store, and to make sure that the brands align with your own brand as a retailer. Because like you as a brand that's selling products in store, you might have a very different approach from the brands that you're selling on the shelf. So kind of crossing that gap becomes a lot more important.
Mate, it does. Exactly right. And what I've seen in my 4 years now in cannabis, with 20 plus years selling this sort of technology, is there's been some degree of focus between brands and retailers on the brick and mortar retail experience. There's a lot of talk and continues to be talk and education and so forth around bud tenders and in-store displays and so on and so forth, right? And that makes sense because I personally still buy my weed in store down the road here in Venice, right? I prefer that experience personally. I'll admit that. I'll browse online, right? That's where I do all my research, and that's where this comes into play. There's definitely been less emphasis on e-commerce. You know that, I know that, period, in the industry. Now, in some states, I get it, right? In Colorado, where it's, call it maybe 20% of transactions are e-commerce, I get it, right? Maybe the focus is more on, has to be more on, obviously, on foot traffic in store. But certainly in the newer states in particular, the East Coast states, let's call it what we're seeing in Jersey, Maryland, even New York, Massachusetts, um, early signs in Ohio, even now with rec, is much higher proportion of e-commerce transactions. And then not to mention the consumer like me and many, many consumers who we research online and then we go into the store, right? So you've got to influence people when they're online. We know this. We know this in every other industry. I used to do this in former roles for the Nikes and the T-Mobiles, and it's just, you know, don't have to have the conversation about it. It's just common knowledge. But in cannabis, we're still sort of in that education phase. And also, to your point earlier, letting people in cannabis know, hey, this is all available now to you. Everything that, you know,
Right.
Best Buy, Walmart, whoever have access to, there's a version now for cannabis. And so I think
Yeah.
that's for people to be aware of.
And a lot of it too is just knowing what to expect when you make the trip to the store. Like
Mhm.
that you mentioned Best Buy. I mean, like if I'm gonna go buy a big TV or whatever, like I want to see it in person, right? But I'm gonna browse online first. I'm gonna do some research. I'm gonna check out what the prices are like. I'm gonna learn a little bit about the brands of TVs. I mean, it's becoming the very same thing in cannabis. And I think what's great about having a way to control and do a little bit of actual real merchandising on your website can help you control that consumer experience. And so, like, personally, if I'm interested in buying a half ounce of weed or something, I want to know what the price is for that quantity and what the quality is of all the stores around me, right? So the easier it is for me to go on that website of the dispensary down the street and immediately see some pricing information about a product that I'm interested in, the
Mhm.
easier that is, the easier I'm going to make the decision to go to that store, right? And if I go on a website that takes a while to load and I have to click 3 or 4 times to get to the menu and none of the pricing is displayed properly and the look and feel of it doesn't feel like what I'm going to expect in the store, like all of those little things add up to that decision and ultimately how much money I'm going to spend at that store too. Because if I only see one product and I'm like, cool, they got what I need and it's at a good price point, I'm in and out, that's a missed opportunity in some cases because a lot of the times people are interested in buying multiple things, trying new things. But if they're going to spend way too much on that one product, they won't have the rest of that budget to spend on some new stuff. So a lot of this is really just controlling that experience that people are going to ultimately have in store too. And I think Surfside, has a big implication in that in terms of how that stuff is displayed on the website.
For sure. Yeah, that
Yeah,
consistency you mentioned is critical, right? The consistency between the in-store experience and the e-com experience. I know that's where you folks play. That's what you help your customers do. Make sure that e-com experience is optimized, right? And so, regardless of the way I want to shop as a cannabis consumer, I'm catered for. And
right.
that even starts to merge into, and we won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but customized ecom. And I know that's a big thing for you guys, right? Like I want to, again, when I go to Amazon, I'm getting a customized experience, right? They know me.
Right.
We're not quite at the Amazon level, of course, yet, right, as an industry, but we're on that road, right? And we do know through CRM and through ecom transactions and so forth a lot about our customers, right? So why not serve them up a personalized experience when they come to the ecom? If I only ever buy certain products or only buy flour, is that an opportunity to only show me flour products, or is that an opportunity for a pre-roll company to come in and upsell me and try their pre-rolls for half off, right? So there's just so much we can do that is available. I think a lot of folks, probably on the retail side in particular, think, well, that seems really complicated and difficult. And I've tried to do this myself and it's really laborsome. And the response is, well, you don't have to do it yourself now, right? Between a great partner like CannaPlanners, some good tech like Surfside, literally you can sit back and let all this happen. And well, I know we're going to talk through some specific examples and how the brands can activate, but yeah, I mean, if there's any message of this conversation to the industry, it's, hey, this technology is available. It's not cost prohibitive, and it's going to help you. And this is where I want to go now, is really merge into this building an ecosystem for the industry. The marketplaces, in my opinion, just my opinion, have had their time. I don't think they're going to continue to grow, right? I think they missed their chance. So this is a solution where the brands themselves lean in. They're the advertisers in this equation. The retailers lean in. They're the publishers in this equation. And it's their ecosystem. They own the customers, they own the data, they're building up their own, they're investing in their own businesses rather than investing in a marketplace scenario. And that's
Right.
my, I think, Surfside's favorite thing. I know CannaPlanners team love that too, because it's a technology and an ecosystem really by the industry for the industry, and it serves the industry. And that's the most exciting part.
Yep, totally. And just to hit on that point about marketplaces, like I don't think they're going anywhere. And I think one way to think about that too is a lot of the time those can be customer acquisition engines for you. You know, like you might find some people on Weedmaps or Leafly that are not familiar with you as a dispensary, right? But like the whole idea is once they leave that marketplace and come to your website and come to your dispensary, you want them to stay there. You don't want them to
That's right.
go back
That's
to that
true.
marketplace to find a new spot. And you know, the stronger your brand is, the stronger that whole ecosystem is, the more likely it is that they're going to stay with you as a customer rather than go back to that marketplace. But yeah, let's maybe jump into some examples. Is that where you were going to go next?
I will. I want to share one example there, though. So before cannabis, I was in the restaurant industry, restaurant tech.
Yep.
Technically, we were building ghost kitchens. This is so we're working with Uber Eats, DoorDash, so on and so forth. So I was very
Yeah.
much part of that industry while that transformation was occurring in the late teens and the around COVID time, or just before COVID. And what became abundantly clear from restaurants was that they needed, and now there's all these technologies that do this, they needed to invest in their own infrastructure. They needed to invest in their own customer data. They need to invest in first party direct relationships with their customers. They could not rely on Uber Eats, DoorDash at all to sustain their business long term. There's a number of reasons for that, notwithstanding the exorbitant fees that those companies charge for
Right.
transactions. So I don't know whether they're all disappearing tomorrow. Um, I have a huge bias towards if you're going to invest money as a brand or a retailer in any industry, but certainly in this one, I think you're better off investing your dollars in acquiring your own customers, getting them into your own loyalty programs, having that direct relationship with them. Certainly, you are right in that the marketplaces can be going back to our top of the funnel. Yeah, they could be a top of the funnel tool. There's just been way too much emphasis, way too much reliance on those marketplaces. And I think folks are starting to realize that now and at least starting to bifurcate their investments.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, the same can be said about like the Google Ads platform. I mean, CannaPlanners as a whole stopped advertising on Google Ads just because it costs so much money. And oftentimes, when you start spending that money, your competitor down the street notices. And what happens? They start spending money. And then what happens? The ads start getting more expensive. And then what happens? They start bidding on your own brand name and you start doing the same. And at the end of the day, the only winner is Google, right? So the same can be said about these marketplaces. So I completely agree with you. Invest in your own brand and your own ecosystem, and you won't have that kind of, race to the bottom essentially that,
Well,
exists kind of everywhere.
you're right about the prices. I just had a call this morning with a great customer of ours up in Mass who was interested in Meta, and I won't go down that road, but expensive and shiny object. But in terms of bringing it back to what can brands and retailers do really today, right? That isn't a heavy lift, that is going to make a meaningful difference to their business. What we're really leaning into, and we've sort of by default, we're now sort of in this place as a business. It's all about bringing these brands and retailers together, and not just any brand and any retailer, but retailers with their key brand partners and brands with their key retail partners. Everything we're doing, including obviously this conversation, but I was on a panel last week talking about this, and all the content we're bringing out as a business now is all about this, because the reality is, mate, it works. I was over yesterday with the syndicate here in California, about 20 dispensaries here in SoCal, and they want to build a program just to partner with their key brand partners, right? They don't want to do this with everybody, but they want to give their key brand partners special access. They want to make sure they're
Right.
selling those products. And this is technology that just facilitates that. And so it's not necessarily carte blanche. Retailers can choose their brands can choose their retailers. But what it helps do, number one, when brands and retailers come together and put together advertising and marketing packages, first thing it does, surprise, surprise, it drives sales of those products, right? So if they're trying to
Yep.
provide sales lift, obviously doing some targeted advertising is going to do that. And that's the number one thing that this does. It makes sure that product sells. And as we know, brands fight tooth and nail sometimes to get on these menus. And again, I have this conversation every day with a retailer. Sometimes they walk away and think, "Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm in." I mean,
Yeah.
I go to a dispensary, I'm overwhelmed with choice, and I know I have some idea of what's going on. I can't imagine what it's like when you have no idea. Same with an ecom menu. You hit an ecom,
Yep.
mostly it's alphabetically. I mean, it's just not helpful, right? So um, having the retailers be able to say, right, 2 brands, 10 brands, 20 brands we work with, let's come together. Let's put together some smart marketing and advertising packages here to make sure this product sells. Number one. The number two thing it does, and this is very much what you guys are helping with, it creates a more customized e-com experience, right? For the
Yeah.
consumer. You talked about that earlier. And the third thing it does, it actually spins off some revenue for the retailer, right? There's actually a revenue share component of this. So the brands are obviously funding, they're buying the ads on the retail menus. And then part of that revenue just passes straight through to the retailer. So the retailer is able to open up a passive net new revenue stream in addition to those other benefits. So it's a massive win for the retailers
So
to
it
go,
can help you offer a much better, more enticing deal essentially to your customers that can help retention rate and ultimately potentially get you some money in the door as well that you can then reinvest on some other marketing. I know one thing that our clients spend a lot of money on acquisition and SEO and retention and Alpine IQ and all these different things. So if you have a way to increase the conversion rate of those people that you're driving from Google, that's huge. That's a win-win. And if it's going to make you some money at the end of the day so that you can spend less on these other things that you need to spend money on, I mean, it's a no-brainer. So,
mate, that's
um,
exactly it. That's exactly
yeah,
it's if you're investing in driving traffic to your website, right, which most people are doing through SEO organically, but also other means, why not monetize that traffic, right?
exactly. And I think like one thing to think about too is, and this is a conversation I have with clients all the time, is a lot of what we're doing in the world of SEO is trying to attract people to come to your dispensary that might be a little farther away. They might pass a competitor along the way. They might have to drive 30 minutes, so you have to offer them something enticing to get them to do that, you know?
Got to
So
be
this is a
compelling.
great way to do that. Exactly, totally. If they
It
go
is.
on the menu and they don't really see anything from, especially from a price standpoint, that they're going to want to drive an extra 10 minutes for, then that's a wasted visit on your website.
Yes.
So,
Agreed. We look at customers like, I know we've got a bunch of shared customers. I mean, Uma Flowers is one that springs to mind that's been part of this for some time. We're not going to share
yep.
specific numbers or details here, but just to give folks a sense of what can they expect, right? To when you launch something like this, when you launch something like Ecommerce Media, you're looking at, as we talked about, you're looking at sales lift, right? Obviously, people see ads. Not everyone does, but a good portion of them click on them and then make a purchase. So nationally, which is, this industry, every state tells its own story, but nationally, we see 15, 16% sales lift for any brand that's doing this advertising. That's really, really meaningful sales lift. And obviously, that can be
Huge.
significantly higher. The basket sizes, it depends on the retailer. Certain people are focused on certain things and different KPIs, right? But
Right.
basket size is a huge one, right? How do we increase basket size? How do we increase average order value? This is an incredible way to do that. We see up to 20%
Which
as
ties directly into retention too. Like
exactly into retention.
if you
Exactly.
see people spending more, that means they're probably going to come back and they've probably been a loyal customer of yours. Sorry to cut you off. Please keep
No,
going.
no, 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 mate. I mean, like an example of exactly what you're saying is I only buy flour, right? But let's say I buy my flour and it's in my cart on my CannaPlanners built menu website. A pre-roll company could have a cart topper pop up, say, hey, want to buy some, I'm not going to name brands because I don't want to favor anyone, 20% off XYZ pre-rolls. I might, maybe not 20%, but if it was 50% off, it was a new launch or something in that state, throw them in, we're going for a picnic this weekend or whatever. So it's smart marketing and advertising while the consumer is in that consideration mindset.
And the retailer can choose what brand that is,
100%. Well,
like
it's their
so they
website. It's their
know
website. Yeah.
exactly. And I think
The
that's the real
gentleman, I'm
powerful thing because
very
like
powerful.
a lot of these brands are new, right? And a lot of what happens a lot of the times is like a new brand will pop up and it'll be a hot topic for a month or two, right? So if all of a sudden you can find a way to advertise that brand in the purchase journey and offer a little bit of a discount, that'll probably exist for a little while after. Like you're introducing that person into this brand that they might not know of, but then they're going to do a little bit more research, and then all of a sudden, that's a great way to keep somebody coming back to your dispensary because they had this experience that was like, wow, I got introduced to this new brand that I never knew of. I got a discount on it, and I can expect more of this when I come to this website. Like that's a great user experience.
It is. It is a great user experience. And the consumer wins in this scenario, the retailer wins in this scenario, and the brand. We've got some of the new, it's really interesting looking at sort of more legacy states, right, versus the newer states, just period. Interesting. But as it pertains to this, and I can tell the health of a state through this program. I won't disclose how, but it's obvious how healthy that state is. And in some of the newer states, the New Jerseys, the Marylands, where I know retention is massive. You also got to acquire them in the first place. I think one of the interesting things is some of the bigger brands that are going into those states that have sophisticated marketing and some investment dollars, they are going really hard on new customer acquisition. They know that not no one, maybe 1% of New Jersey have made their decision on this is my brand for flower, vape, pre-roll, edible, whatever. Maybe 2%, I don't know, but
It's early days.
early days. So you got to get out there. You got to be part of the vernacular. You got to be part of the conversation. You got to have your brand in front of them. You got to give them a chance to experience it, and obviously virtually, but also in reality. And then you've got to come back and retain, right? They're not necessarily just going to have it once and come back because there's 30 options for them, right? It's so crowded,
Yeah.
and that education piece. So, you've got to be ubiquitous a little bit. You got to be where the consumer is, and you also don't have to be an MSO brand to do it. You can do this on really any budget.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, now just hearing you talk about it, it sounds like it could be a lot of work, right? Like a retailer's got a lot going on in their day to day. So like how easy is it for somebody to get started doing this kind of stuff? Like what does that process look like? Is it, do they have to get on a bunch of phone calls or is it a click of a button sort of thing?
They're just going to give you a call anytime, Zach. And
Yep.
well, of course, I'm going to say it's straightforward. It is straightforward.
Well, to that point though, like it is actually really easy. Like they
Well,
can
it
just
is.
call their for CannaPlanners clients, you call your client success manager and we, start that process on our own. But like let's say you're not a CannaPlanners client,
Well,
and they want to
definitely reach
talk to
out
you
to.
directly.
Yeah, well, first of all, they need to be working with CannaPlanners, but yes, they can reach out to
Yeah.
us. But I'll give you the example, sort of the corollary of that. We've had some folks, over the course of the last 18 months as we've been, going to market with this, who have said to us, no, that's a great idea. We're going to do that ourselves. We're going to sell that space ourselves. It's like, of course, you can totally go do that. And you are going to make a better margin. You'll make 100%. But is it worth the bother? And I'd tell you what, not every single one, but 3 of those groups so far have come back this year and said, oh, this is not worth it. Like we'd rather do it through you guys and not have to lift a finger. So it's like anything. It's like, I don't repair my own car. First of all, I have no idea how to repair my car, but you've got to outsource some of this stuff so you can run your core business. And I think folks who have said, yes, I love the idea of collaborating with my key brand partners. I want to do this, but I don't want to do it with you guys. That's fine, because we know
Yep.
at some point, if it is successful, it's going to become way too much work. So really, all it is, it's a light integration with the ecom platform. We're agnostic at Surfside, so it doesn't matter what ecom you're on. If you're a retailer listening, we can serve ads. And we also, by the way, have all the brands lined up. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them are signing on to this program. So again, I go back to the gentleman I was with yesterday. 7 brands he sells are already part of this program. So he could call me this afternoon and say, switch it on. And in 24 hours, ads would be serving on the menu. Those products would be selling faster. They'd be getting a rev share. And the brands, I mean, they may be the happiest of all, because when you don't have a direct to consumer channel, it doesn't matter what industry you're in,
Right.
it's, it comes with its own set of challenges. This is a pseudo direct to consumer channel that does provide a lot of analytics and a lot of data back to the brand about how
Yep.
much money did they make for every dollar they spent.
Yep, yep. And if you are on a CannaPlanners website, we do build a lot of reporting that allows you to see exactly what this kind of stuff is doing for you. I mean, I know Surfside comes with, your own reporting too, but there's a lot of ways to understand the impact of this, and it's pretty easy to see. Like you could see the next day after running some ads how much money that generated for you. So great.
Oh, real time. I mean, literally real time now. And that's the cool thing, mate, is if it's not working, stop spending. If it
Exactly.
is working, we can maybe get it to work even better. That's the great thing about any digital advertising, as you well know.
Yep, totally. And I think like the integration between CannaPlanners and Surfside, it actually does make it really easy. It is kind of just like a click. You
It's
literally just
turnkey,
add
yeah.
a, yeah, you don't have to do anything. We just add a couple strings of code to the website, and next thing you know, you're running ads, and you get to watch how much money they make for you. So it's a very simple thing to set up and run. Um, and yeah, we're happy to answer any questions about how that process goes, but it's simple. So
It is. It is. I think we do.
we could show some examples. Yeah, with that in mind, is that where you were gonna head?
Well, I don't have anything. I don't have a screen share ready to go, but there were a
Oh,
couple of
okay,
questions here. Do you want to? Do we want to
cool.
go through these couple of questions that have come in? And folks, if anyone else on
Let's
the,
do it.
we didn't actually prompt you, but they've come in anyway. Any other questions, folks? Have please stick them in the chat button. Would be awesome. But what do we got here? Can we? So the first question is, can we explain how ads on menus improves the consumer experience? I think we kind of touched on this. It's all about personalized or customized ecom. Again, very, very common in every other industry. We are catching up in cannabis. Obviously, we started much later than a lot of them, but it's really about having the products that you're most likely to buy served up very easily accessible for you. We've all become so impatient. Well, I talk for myself. I've become so impatient that if I can't get something really, this is why the marketplaces drive me insane. I can't quickly buy weed on there. Like, I'm not going to bother. So people want that. They want to get in, they want to get out pretty quickly, normally. And by creating a more personalized experience, by surfacing the products that they're likely to be interested in, then they're getting a more personalized and more efficient experience. They're more likely to come back and shop with you. That's my thoughts, Zach. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I mean, outside of just that retention piece and making it easier, it's giving you more control over
Mhm.
how to actually sell through that consumer process on your website. So,
Yep.
we all know that there's certain points of when you're checking out that you're more likely to add more things to your cart. This is an easy way to do that.
Yeah, exactly. We got one other here. Yeah, I mean, well, I did mention someone asked, aside from MSOs, excuse me, aside from MSOs, can other people take part? Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's an indicator of the power of this sort of solution between retailers and brands that you've got, the bigger brands and retailers have definitely lent in. But we have, I mean, the first retailer ever to come onto this program was a 1 unit retailer in Massachusetts. So 100%. And again, any budget really is going to be worth at least testing. The secret is, I've probably harped on too many times, if you're a brand asking that question, leaning in with those key retailers, right? And starting there, and retailers leaning in with your key brands. When that happens and we get that alignment, we see incredible success.
Yep, yep, and I think that's what's great about commerce media is it's a really great introduction to the world of advertising. A lot of people, frankly get a little bit turned off by just the world of programmatic advertising and display advertising, it just is what it is. So,
Yeah.
commerce media is a great intro to that, and if you can be successful with that one product, then why not try some others down the line, where it fits into your tech stack and your media, your marketing mix.
Mate, exactly. I mean, look, we've got some retailers that didn't, to your point, they didn't believe in advertising or they didn't have budget or whatever it might have been, but they came on as a retailer publisher. And within a few months, they're netting out $1,000, $2,000 a month in passive rev share income. Some of them just taken their checks and they're doing with it whatever they like. But some of them have come back and said, okay, you were right. This does work. can we reinvest this money back into driving more traffic, right? To monetize
Yep.
those ads even further. And then we've got the ecosystem.
Yep. And that's the conversation that I've had with a lot of clients over the years. It's like, when does it make sense to spend money on this kind of stuff? And that's a tough question to ask. And a lot of the times there really is no right answer. But I think this product of commerce media gives you a good way to kind of dip your toes in without going all in immediately.
It is that. It's a toe dip for sure.
Yeah.
On that note,
Cool.
on the note of a toe dip, mate, good to talk to you.
Yeah, yeah, you as well. I think this was a great conversation. Hopefully, we can pick it back up again. I think there's a lot to continue with here, and just kind of look back on some success stories. And I'm sure we'll get some more questions that come after this. But in general, very stoked about the partnership that we have going. Very stoked about the results, and yeah, it was a great time.
Same, and I'm excited to see where the partnership goes from a product standpoint over time, because I know we're going to look to do things for you and your customers that maybe are a little special and unique as well. So I'm super excited to see what
Yeah.
Mike and your tech team come up with.
Totally. I think, like, just to put a pin on it, one thing that we're really stoked about is this campaign tool that we developed. Really excited about ways to kind of integrate that a little bit further with Surfside, just so we can, we're all about giving retailers the most control that they can possibly have over the brand and retail and online e-commerce experience. So finding ways to tweak little things and make things look a little bit better, make things function a little bit better from a user experience, give people more control. That's kind of where we're headed. So there's lots more opportunity for sure in the future.
Awesome, mate. Well, I love it. Well, hopefully, folks learned a thing or two out of this. And if anyone's got questions, reach out to Zach or I. And I guess am I going to see you in a week and a bit in Vegas?
I won't be there. Got to hold it down here in Vermont, but we'll have a team of about 4 out there in Vegas. So
Okay, and I'm going to see Will out there. Yeah, I'm a little bit jealous actually. Vegas for 4 nights at my age is not ideal, but it's a great conference for us. It'll be a lot of fun. So I'll report back once we get through it.
yeah, there's some great events. The team's going to be having some fun. I had a good amount of fun last year, and we're letting some other people enjoy it. So yeah, Vegas is always a fun time. We'll see you
Share,
guys out there.
share the joy. Thanks, Zach. I'll talk to you soon,
Yeah.
mate.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye now.